Yes, it's that time of year again. Black Friday is almost upon us and we're already seeing some amazing deals. And today we're going to be checking out these solid state drives, or SSDs. And we're going to be checking out some of the best performing and most highly rating SSDs on the market. Which is the right deal for you? Well, let's find out. Over the past few years, in addition to becoming more affordable, solid-state drives have also become much faster, with read and write speeds that come much closer and in some cases are even on a par with the built-in drive on your computer. And with these faster speeds, that allows you to place your media files, whether it's music, still photos, or even high-resolution video, on your external solid-state drive, and you can edit and process those files directly. And of course, typically the faster the drive, the more expensive it is, and the question then becomes, how fast do you really need and how much do you need to spend? Well, today I want to present my 3 picks for 3 different solid-state drives in 3 different speed categories. Now, before we get into it, the usual disclaimer: this video is not sponsored, paid for, or influenced in any way. I purchased all of the equipment, including the tested solid-state drives, with my own money, and the opinions are entirely my own. And of course, if you enjoy the video and get good information out of it, please remember to give us a like and consider subscribing to the channel for a lot more similar content. So let's get on with it. Now, before we get into the different read and write speeds, first a little bit of context. Now, up until recently, all of my videos have been edited using one of these, a 2020 MacBook Air with an M1 chip. And I would do my editing by loading the video files directly onto the solid-state drive built into the laptop itself. Now, when I tested the read and write speed of my MacBook, I found I was getting around 3,000 megabytes per second, and while there are faster systems out there, this of course was plenty fast enough for pretty much all video editing needs. But the problem I encountered was that I was constantly running low on the available hard drive space, so I decided to start placing my files onto a solid-state drive and then processing them directly from this drive. Now, this particular drive is one of the first generation SanDisk Extreme drives. It performs very well, but it is limited in its speed. It's rated to provide around 500 megabytes per second, and when I test it, I typically get around about 400 megabytes per second. But when it comes to video editing, I do notice a performance difference, including things like lags during playback and the occasional freeze while it processes something before then continuing. And so in this year's Black Friday sales, I decided it's time to purchase a new and faster solid-state drive. So I did a bit of research. I already purchased a couple of drives and done some initial testing, and these are my picks. Now, when it comes to the budget category, my pick is this guy, the Crucial X9. Now, if you check out online reviews, you'll find that this is one of the most highly rated solid-state drives you can get. It is a standard USB 3.2 Gen 2 drive, offering speeds of just over 1,000 megabytes per second, although in my testing I was getting closer to 800 megabytes per second. But in most cases you'll find this is plenty fast enough, certainly for photo editing, for music editing, and even for most video editing needs. In addition to doing some speed testing, I also did some basic video editing tests, and I found that when using this drive, the experience was much closer to placing the files directly onto the drive of my MacBook. Now, this drive is available in 1, 2, or 4 terabyte versions, all of which are on sale, but if I take the example of the 4 terabyte version, it normally sells for $270, but currently can be purchased for $220, which is a real bargain for a 4 terabyte drive. As far as the mid-range pick is concerned, I went with another crucial drive, and that is the X10 Pro. Now, the X10 Pro ups the specifications from the X9, doubling the read and write speed to around 2,000 megabytes per second, but it is important to point out that this is a USB 3.2 Gen 2x2 drive, which gets that extra speed by leveraging something called multi-lane operation. But in order to get that speed advantage, you have to plug it into a compatible USB-C port. Now, apparently that port is currently not so common, so be sure to check compatibility of your computer before you jump on this particular deal. Now, the X10 Pro will still work with USB 3.2 Gen 2 standard systems, but you will be limited to about half that speed, or around about 1000 megabytes per second, just as you had with the X9. Now, if you have a compatible system or are planning to get one, the X10 Pro is definitely a very enticing deal. It normally sells for $400 and is currently available for just $270. And when it comes to the high end, my pick is the SanDisk Pro G40. Now, this is a Thunderbolt drive compatible with Thunderbolt 3 and newer, but it will also operate with a USB-C port, as we'll discuss in a moment. Now, plugged into a Thunderbolt port, this drive will offer speeds of up to 3000 megabytes per second, and in my testing I was getting around 2700 to 2800 megabytes per second, so pretty close to that number and basically on a par with the built-in drive on my MacBook. And in fact, this drive is so fast that you could even use this as your main drive. You could even run applications off this drive. And in addition to being very fast, it's also IP68 dust and water resistant. It is also freeze-proof and shockproof. Now, on the downside, it is quite big for an SSD. If you compare it to the Crucial here, you can see it is significantly larger, and also being a Thunderbolt drive, it does draw more power. So if you're using this on a laptop, it will drain your battery a little bit faster than other SSDs. However, as I mentioned at the beginning, this can also operate as a standard USB drive by plugging it into a standard USB port or using a standard USB only cable. And when you do this, it will run at lower power. Now, of course, you will also see lower speed, and in the testing I did, I was getting around about 800 megabytes per second, which, as I mentioned earlier, is still going to be fast enough for most applications. Now, the SanDisk G40 is available in 1, 2, and 4 terabyte versions, but I think the best bargain currently is the 4 terabyte, which normally sells for $400. I've seen it also listed for a lot more than that, but currently you can get it on a Black Friday deal for just $325. So those are my picks for the best SSD deals this Black Friday. Now, I'm planning on doing some follow-up videos, doing some more in-depth testing of these drives, as well as some Lightroom related videos where we're going to look at migrating a catalog from one drive to another and one computer to another, so be on the lookout for those videos also. Otherwise, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to give us a like and consider subscribing to the channel for a lot more similar content. Thanks again.